All right, let's get on into it. Today, like I said, we are doing something a little bit different. We are right here. We have 16 tournament-winning Imperialdramon deck lists from both the JP meta as well as the English meta here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through all these decks. We're going to review some of them here today. Some of them will go into the YouTube video, not all 16, obviously. But after, I'm going to go ahead and go into this spreadsheet, which has all the playable cards in here. And I'm going to go ahead and mark down the ratios in which all of them are played. That's going to make it so that way we can see what's going to be the most common whenever you're trying to build Imperial. You're going to be able to see what's worked the best at what ratios. We're going to see if you're trying to prep against Imperial, you can see what is going to be most common deck list for you to start to prep and put text into your cards and whatnot. But this spreadsheet is going to be pinned in the comment down below in YouTube. Down there, you'll be able to go and access this fully. You'll be able to do things like, let's say you don't know exactly what Wormmon ST9 does. You can go ahead and click on the names right here, and it's going to take you straight over to DigimonCard.io, and you're going to be able to see all the cards here, and this will work for every single card here on this list. So this will be fully access to everybody on here. Just go ahead and click that link down in the comments, but let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, and before we get on into this, make sure that you're following me on Twitch. The link is down in the description if you want to see some more stuff like this live. I also do a bunch of battle videos and deck list stuff, so hope to see you there. Now, getting on into it, the first list we're going to look at one of the most recent GFG webcam proxy locals. And so here we see that they are running the 5 eggs. Some decks are opting to run the 4. I like the 5th egg for the slower matchups like Mastamon. So they went with the 4 Upamon, or the 4 Demi-Vmon, 1 Upamon. I feel like that is fairly standard. Looking at the rookies, they have 4 Jamming Vmon, which is, I feel like, one of the weaker Vmons in my opinion. And so playing it at 4 is very interesting to me, especially at a high result, just because I feel like this card, it is nice at 1 or 2, but it sometimes does feel kind of useless because you're just going to Digivolve on top of it. So I did like some of the other Vmons instead, but deciding to go all the way up to 4 here, and it turns out it worked out. Running 3 and 3 of these searchers here. Good consistency. I'm not really against it. I've cut down to 2 of this one and playing 4 here, but it's still relatively the same. And then they're going with the 4 EX1 Vmon, not going with any of the starter deck 8 or BT2 Vmons. I've been playing it at 3. I do like it here, so I do understand it. Then it looks like we're going to have the standard champion lineup here. 4 X-Vmon, 4 Stingmon, 3 Ragemon. I think this is about standard. Obviously, there's going to be variations. Some people are going to play 4 Ragemon. Some people are going to play hybrids. Some people might play the new X-Vmon as well. But I think this is pretty standard here. Now going with 4 Imperialdramon, 3 Dino Beamon. I feel like this is fine. I've been playing 6 ultimates myself, and I've seen a lot of lists playing 7. I have been tempted to test it. Sometimes you do have a lot of ultimates in your hand, which does feel kind of clunky, but having the consistency of it is going to be nice, so I do like the 7 here. Then, interestingly enough, we're playing 2, 2, and 2 Imperials, 2 Fighter modes, and 2 Dragon modes. I feel like this is fairly standard, nothing crazy about that. But then 2 Paladin modes. I don't know if Mastamon is as prevalent in the North America meta to warrant playing 2 Paladin modes. Obviously, it's going to be okay in other matchups too, but I feel like this is mostly for the Mastamon matchup, but did work out for them here. I don't know what their matchup spread for the tournament was, so they could have just went into multiple Mastamons where Paladin mode is going to be pretty good. But other than that, it is kind of heavy for the 7 count, but it is a fairly strong card, especially with HBD if you can get it out early. 2 Blue Memory Boost. This is interesting to me because I feel like Howling is better. Yes, Blue is going to allow you to search the top 4 and grab a Blue, but I feel like there's already a lot of search. We have 3 Davis, we have 3 and 3 of the Searcher Vmons, we have 5 eggs that draw, as well as just an incredible amount of drawing from just Digivolving and DNA Digivolving and stuff like that. And so I feel like the Blue Memory Boost is potentially just worse than Howling. Howling can give you a lot of advantage in things like Armor Rush. You can strip the bottom source so they can't Armor Purge, can just randomly stun things. It's also fine in Imperial because they can go ahead and you can just strip away some sources, like even just stripping away a Demi Vmon and an EX1 Vmon with a Howling would be very powerful. So Blue Memory Boost is definitely the most prominent one. I'm sure we're going to see more Blue Memory Boost going into this, but I do feel like Howling could potentially be a little bit stronger. 4 Hammer Spark, I think, is kind of staple. Nothing to really say there, as well as 8-1 HPD. HPD is just super strong, especially with Fighter mode. And if you're going to play 2 Paladin mode, you definitely want the HPD to go up into that. And then 3 Davis, 2 Davis Ken. This is also the tamer ratio that I like. I think we're going to see a lot of 3 and 3, 3 Davis, 3 Davis Ken. But I'm a fan of the 3 Davis, 2 Davis Ken, just because Davis Ken doesn't give you as much advantage on play. And sometimes you need to use that memory to be a little more proactive. So sometimes playing multiple Davis Ken for 4 is a little bit rough, but overall this is looking like a very strong list. The only thing I'm curious about is the Paladin modes. I want to know how they did for them, so that's going to have to be something that we're going to see as the metagame progresses a little bit more, but congrats on the GFG win. Alright, here we're going to be going over a list from Japan. Obviously, we're going back in time a little bit here, and so we're going to see a little bit of discrepancies, and so I wanted to make sure to talk about that. Right here, obviously, there is 4 Ice Walls in this list. We can only play them at 1 because we have the restricted list. They didn't have it active at their time. So this is going to be a little bit different on the spreadsheet. Not all the card counts are going to come up to the total because there are going to be some lists that are playing 3-4 Ice Walls. We can only mark it as 1, but I still wanted to go ahead and look at this so that way we can see what it's going to be like. Looking back at the metagame and see if there's going to be anything that we can take from the Japanese metagame and apply it here, but I just wanted to note that there are going to be lists with 4 Ice Walls. Yes, it's going to be different than how we have it in our current metagame, but the rest is really what matters here. So they're just going with the 4 Demi Vmon here, no 5th egg. I do like the 5th egg like I previously mentioned, but I think it's fine here. It's not really going to matter too much. It depends on how you feel about your Mastamon matchup. 4 Jamming Vmon, once again, I am surprised by this again, but I think it will be consistent in the Japanese metagame. I know we saw a lot more 4 Jamming Vmon in their metagame than we are preparing to see here in the North America metagame, so I'm wondering if we're going to continue to shift towards the 4 Jamming Vmon or if we're going to shift away from the Jamming Vmon altogether. It'll be very interesting. 2 Madoki, love it. I'm currently playing 1 myself as just a little bit of a tech, but playing it at 2 does give you a little bit more consistency to it. I have been also considering playing 1 Syakomon, 1 Madoki, but the consistency of that is a little bit lower, so I didn't go for it, but I do like seeing the 2 Madoki here. It's going to be a really strong card in just a lot of the metagame. There's a lot of ways to gain memory and a lot of stuff that you can stop, and so Madoki is a very good add. And then it looks like we're not going with any BT8 or Starter Deck 8 Vmons here. Just going to go ahead and go with the 4 EX1 and 4 Starter Deck 9. Fair enough. I think the BT8 one is one that you want to play at around 2. The Starter Deck 8 one is a kind of a hit or miss card, but the BT8 one searching is pretty good. So I am surprised to see that in these JP lists, they do cut it down a lot more than we're going to see in the North America lists. 4 XVmon, 4 Stingmon, this is just going to be standard. They decided to go with the 4 Raidramon here, so not going with any like tamers or anything, just wanting to go with the Raidramon. You can go ahead and cycle those with the Davis Ken. Go ahead and swing, Armor Purge, Digivolve, tap Davis Ken, unsuspend. It's going to be very nice. Now going up into the Ultimates and the Megas, we see here some differences from what we normally see. We see 2 of the BT3 Imperialdramon. I did test this myself. I wasn't really the big fan of it. It felt really slow. I think if you were going to play a Imperialdramon for 3 Digivolve, I kind of liked the EX1 Imperialdramon a little bit more. That was going to allow you to swing in with like Jamming Vmon, and then you can Digivolve, put your opponent at like 1 and unsuspend without having to leave your XVmon suspended at 4K, and you don't have to spend 4 to Digivolve. It is a 3 to Digivolve for these other Imperialdramons, but they decided to go with this one. It is very interesting. It felt a little bit slow, but they did have a little bit different of a metagame. And they opted to cut one of the Imperialdramons down to 3, and then they're playing 3 Dino Beamon. So they actually are playing 8 Ultimates, which is a lot. I know that in JP metagame that they wanted to go a little bit higher on the Ultimates than what I've seen here in the North America metagame, but 8 does seem a lot, especially when you're not playing the 4 Imperialdramon, because then you're going to be relying a little bit more on this Imperialdramon and this Dino Beamon, and sometimes because you're not always going to have the Starter Deck 9 Imperialdramon. Then getting into the Imperial, we see 2 EX1 Dragon Mode. Very interesting, being able to unsuspend and then suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. It is fine. You are going to be able to buff this up to 13 with the Your Turn effect. And then if you have Dino Beamon, you can get another extra DP there. So this is going to be one where I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of this card, but I have thought about it. It is interesting, but I feel like it's probably not as good of a mega slot, especially because you're already playing 3 Dragon Mode and 2 Fighter modes. So I don't know if these spots are going to be worth it. It is very clunky. We already have a very high count of Ultimates and a high count of Megas. Obviously, if you're going to have a high Mega count, you're going to need a little bit higher of an Ultimate count, but I feel like we are cutting for a lot of other cards here, because as we can see, we're playing we're playing the 3-2 here, but we don't have Hammer Sparks, Mega Death, HPD, Memory Boost, anything like that. We are playing the Ice Walls, obviously. If we were in NA, you'd probably cut these 3 for something like HPD, Megadeth, or Hammer Sparks here, but they cut them out completely here to go with some more Digimon, so much more Digimon focused. Actually, just the 4 option cards altogether, so way lower on option cards. Alright, and here's the list that I used to win the first BT8 proxy event, the True Champ Games event. I did change a couple cards from here, but I'll make a video about that later once we get closer to the release here in NA. But this is the list that I did use. I'm not really going to go over it in this video because I already have like a 20-minute video completely breaking down this deck and all my choices and whatnot. So instead, I'm just going to go ahead and link that video in the pinned comment down below alongside the spreadsheet. And so if you're interested in seeing my choices and why I did what I did and potentially talk about my matchups, go ahead and click that down there. But we're going to go ahead and skip this for now. Alright, we got another list from Japan here. This one was very interesting to me because of their level 6 and level 7 lineup mostly, but as we look here, they once again are just on the 4 eggs. I think the 4 and 5 is mostly player preference. We are chilling with just one BT8 Vmon this time. Like I said, I think you play this at 2. They decided to go with 1 and just playing the 4 starter deck 9 Vmon, so they still got a lot of draw, but as we can see here, they are cutting down a lot on Vmon, so that way they can play the 4 Wormmon. I think Wormmon is interesting. It's a card that I've definitely played. I don't know how much I like it at 4. I think this is maybe a 2 or 3 copy card, just because sometimes it's not going to be as impactful as having a Vmon, especially if you want to do something like Digivolve a Raidramon and Raising. It's going to have to be for 3 instead of 2 or stuff like that, but I think Wormmon is fine. I'm interested at the 4 count. I'm interested to see how this card stabilizes in the North America metagame at like what ratios people normally play. I'm going to expect anywhere between 1 and 3 to be standard. I don't know if this is a 4 of type of card, especially in our more aggressive North America metagame, so we'll see here, but I do like the Wormmon. It's very interesting. Champions, again, just playing 4-4-4 for the Raidramon, and then 4-3 of the Imperialdramon Dino B, so at 7 ultimates, and just playing the 3 Dino B, no Chimeramons here. Now, this is where it gets very interesting for me because we are going to be having 1 EX1 Imperial here. So a little tech, I already kind of talked about it. I think it's kind of meh. But then we're playing 3 Dragon modes from Starter Deck 9 and 2 Fighter modes from BT8. So we are playing 6 level 6 Imperials, and then we're playing 3 level 7s. So now with the level 7s, we did see one that played 2 Paladin modes earlier, and if you're playing more than 1 level 7, it is usually 2 Paladin modes, but it's not very common that we see 3 level 7s, especially with them being 2 different level 7s with the Omnimon and the Paladin mode. Now, I did play the Paladin mode for a bit in testing. I ended up cutting it out because it just didn't feel as powerful for me, but after cutting it out, I didn't really miss the level 7 too much, and so looking back at it, playing 3 level 7s definitely feels like something to me that would be fairly clunky, but it obviously did the work for them. They do 2 completely different things, and since you are playing 6 level 6s, you do have the options to get to it, and I guess with the Wormmon, to give it credit, it is going to help you get up into your level 5s a little bit better, because you can do it at end of turn, which will make it so that way you can pass turn, put your opponent out 1, and then DNA, and then come back into your turn later. But very interesting, the 2 and the 1 Omnimon here. I would love to see how this performed for them and what matchups that they had, just because, like I said, I do feel like this is potentially a little bit clunky. Then another interesting thing is that they're actually playing a higher count of Davis and Ken at 3 than they are of Davis. 3 Davis Ken, 2 Davis, and that is interesting to me just because I feel like Davis is a little bit stronger of a card. We will usually either see 3 Davis Ken, or 3 Davis 2 Davis Ken, so to see the opposite there is a little bit interesting to me. I'm definitely on the other way around just because the Davis Ken is a little bit of a commitment, but did end up working out for them. They do have a lot of stuff that makes me question the consistency of this deck, just because we have all these level 6s, all these level 7s, only playing 2 Davis Ken and playing 5 Searchers and only playing 4 Eggs. So there's just, it's only a little bit less search and consistency, but it is enough to make me question how it was performing. And then we're just playing 2 Hammerspark, which is very interesting. Hammerspark is definitely a card that you usually see at 3 or 4, so they just wanted to go ahead and play the 2 to fill in the last couple slots there, I'm sure, and that's fine. Hammerspark is very strong. It's just the 2 ratio is a little bit different from what we normally see. 2 Megadeth. Absolutely powerful card. Want to play it here? I would say you play Megadeth at 2 or 3. I'm a 3 Megadeth kind of gamer right now, but I can see it being at 2 because it's still just a very strong card. So I like the choices here, and then 1 HPD. Now we don't see Ice Wall and we don't see any memory boost, so they opted to not go with the Ice Wall, went with the Hammer Sparks instead. And I still really like the Ice Wall, but looking at the list, to make extra room for the 7th ultimate, 1 or 2 extra Imperials, and then the extra level 7s, you are going to have to cut back on something. So it looks like we cut back on Ice Walls, Hammer Sparks, and potentially this Davis here. Alright, and then we have another list that ended up getting first at a True Champ Webcam proxy event for here in the English metagame, so something a little bit closer to what we're going to be playing. Now we have the 5 eggs here, so did go up with the 1 Upamon, and again, I do kind of agree with that. 2 jamming Vmon, I think that's fine. That was kind of where I was at for a bit. I've slowly started to wean away from the jamming Vmon, but I like the 2 a lot more than we've seen the 4 jamming Vmon list. I feel like that's way too clunky. Then for Searcher Vmons, we're going to have 3 of the BT8 and 4 of the Starter Deck 9, so pretty good consistency there. And then instead of playing EX1 Vmon, we are going to go with the Starter Deck 8 Vmon. I think that's fine. It's more draw. This is kind of the Vmon that you want to see in your initial stack, being able to essentially on turn 2 swing and get a draw, potentially 2 draws with either Demi Vmon or Upamon, is going to be very good for early game consistency. And then we're playing the 1 Wormmon. Now, looking at this list, I don't know if I like the 1 Wormmon as much. I did say that the Wormmon would probably stabilize between anywhere between like 1 and 3 in North America as far as counts, but looking at the 1 here, I don't really like it as much. It feels like this should be 2 or 3 now that I kind of see a list laid out. I think maybe 2 or 3 is going to be better. Obviously, this did work out for them, but this is one of those cards where I feel like you want to see it more consistently. Obviously, I play like a hybrid at 1, but you don't need to see the hybrid as much for game. Wormmon feels like that card where if you're going to play it, you might want to see it at a higher count, but it looks like they just wanted to tech it, so obviously worked for them, but just looking at the list, it does look a little weird to me. Then we got 2 Lobo, 4 XVmon, 4 Stingmon, and 3 Ragemon. So the 4 Stingmon, the 4 XVmon, and the 3 Ragemon are pretty standard. They did go with the 2 hybrids. I was playing the 1 hybrid. I have talked about multiple times playing 2 hybrids though, so they did end up pulling the trigger on that one, and it obviously worked out for them. So I do like seeing the 2 hybrids. It does have a little bit of confirmation for me that the 2 hybrids is going to work. Now we got Ultimates, 4 Imperialdramon, no Dino Beamon, going with the Chimeramon. I do like Chimeramon. I'm on a 1-1 split myself between Chimera and Dino B, but Chimeramon being able to have a wide DP reduction is going to be very good versus things like Armor Rush, or even in the mirror match, just being able to delete some rookies or make it so that your opponent's XVmon and Stingmon are only at 1k when you give the minus 3k, stuff like that. It is very nice. The most interesting thing here, though, is going to be only 2 Imperials, no Fighter modes, no Paladin modes, no EX1 Dragon modes, nothing. Just 2 Starter Deck 9 Dragon modes. Now, obviously, in this deck, most of your damage and stuff is going to be coming from the EX1 XVmon and then the Imperialdramon here, being able to swing with jamming multiple times, get 2, 3, potentially 4 checks, depending on what you go up into and how much memory that you have. But that's kind of where it comes up to the most. So the megas aren't as key in these type of lists, but it's still very interesting to see because they are so strong that not playing them at all, especially the fighter mode, is a little bit surprising to me. But they did go with it at 2. I would have liked to see the matches of this player playing, just because I would like to see the consistency of them finding the dragon mode. That's something I'm actually very curious about. So hopefully I can go back and find those VODs later. 1 Ice Wall, very standard here. 2 Blue Memory Boost. Again, Blue Memory Boost coming back. I do like Howling a little bit more, but Blue Memory Boost coming in for that consistency. People do like the Blue Memory Boost, so fair enough. 4 Hammer Spark, 3 Megadeth, 1 HPD, so fairly standard there. I do like the 4 Hammer Spark, 3. I like all these ratios. If you're going to play Memory Boost, I would like it at 2. I like Hammer Spark at 3. I like Megadeth at 4. And then the 2 restricted cards both at their 1. I do like that a lot. So I really like how this deck has been built. The only thing that's questionable to me so far is the 2 Imperials. I could see maybe going up to 3. But overall, I really like how this deck is being built as far as ratios. And then to finish off, we're just going with the 3 Davis, 3 Davis Ken. So fairly standard there. Like I said, it's either 3-3 or 3-2. All right, getting on into the final list here, we have the second place GFG list. Obviously, I did say earlier that these are all winning lists. We did have 1 or 2 second place lists just here in the North America because their metagame and their deck choices are going to be a little closer to the metagame that we're playing. And so I still think it was nice. These player did lose to an Imperial in the finals, and so goes just Imperial first and second, so it still works out. So 5 eggs here. I see this being much more common in the English-speaking metagame here, so I do like it, of course. Again, 2 Jamming Vmon, very nice. 4 EX1 Vmon and 4 Starter Deck 9 Vmon. So we are not playing Starter Deck 8 or BT8 Vmon, which is something, again, a little bit surprising to me that this is so common to not play those cards. And then we're going to have the Wormmon at 2. This looks much better to me. As far as just looking at the number counts, I do like the 2 Wormmon if you're going to play it. At least you have some higher consistency. You're obviously going to be able to hit this off of multiple cards with the Vmon, the Davis, and just the general draw that we have. Then we're going with the 4 X Vmon, 4 Stingmon, 4 Raidramon, not going with any hybrids here, just going in with the Raidramon, so respect. Now getting on into the ultimates, we're actually playing 2 of the BT3 Imperialdramon, so we saw this a lot in the JP list, but it's one of those things where I didn't really expect it to be as popular here in NA, but they were obviously able to have some success with it here. Going with the 2 Dino B, the 4 Imperialdramon, so very high count on the ultimates, and then going to be going with the 5 Megas here with the 3-2. In the Imperials, I was playing 3-2 for a bit, so I do respect it. I ended up cutting it down so I could make room and put it at 2-2, but 3-2 still works. I did test it myself, and it does work, so it's definitely personal preference. And then getting on into the level 7s, 1 Paladin, 1 Paladin mode, 1 Blitz Omnimon. So splitting the level 7s here. The other list that we saw before played 2 and 1. The 1 and 1 I feel like is a little bit less clunky because if you have multiple level 7s in your hand, the chances of you getting into both of them are going to be very low. So I do like, if you're going to play level 7s, I would prefer 1 or 2 over the 3 just because you don't really want to have too many dead cards in your hand. But splitting it up here, I think it's nice. You can search out your Imperial Paladin mode whenever you do need it, and then Blitz Omni is just a nice finisher. So they both have different cues and works, but I do like them. It's just I didn't really like the clunkiness of playing them at 3. Then only option cards we're playing is 4 Hammerspark, 1 Ice Wall, no HPD needed, which is very interesting to me considering that they are playing the Paladin mode. I feel like when you're playing Paladin mode and you're playing 5 level 6s, I feel like HPD is going to be a little bit stronger in this list. So it's interesting to me that they decided to cut it out, but they still have very strong option cards. And then finishing it off with the 3 and 3 Tamers, once again, fairly standard. Alright, here is the finished spreadsheet. Like I said, you all are going to have access to this in the pinned comment down below, so you can go ahead and access whenever you want, but we'll go ahead and talk about some things that are potentially a little bit more notable. As we can see here in the Digitama, the BT3 Demi Vmon is the most dominant egg. We have 11 decks playing it at 4, while only the second closest one playing at 4 is 2 of the BT1 Upamon. Some of the Japanese meta decks did not post with their eggs, and so the count on the total decks is going to be a little bit different. But we do see this all here. Demi Vmon, definitely the most powerful egg, going to be able to take control of that jamming and whatnot. Getting into the rookies, a little surprising thing is we have 7 decks playing 4 Jamming Vmon. I definitely feel like this is one of the weaker Vmons, so seeing so heavy count of it at 4 is very interesting to me, as well as the Wormmon also being at 7 decks playing it at 4. This is going to be one of those things where I think this card is pretty good. I don't know fully how I feel about it, but playing it at 4 in this many decks is a little bit surprising to me. Then we'll go down to the Starter Deck 9 Stingmon, the only card on the list that has been played in all 16 decks as a 4 count. Every single deck on the list did play Stingmon at 4. XVmon was very close, but there was one deck list that did play the AX1 XVmon at 3, and so it did push that down. But yeah, Stingmon, the most popular card all around. Then as we look here, Imperialdramon obviously going to be very popular. We have 14 deck lists playing Imperialdramon at a 4 count, and so obviously our most powerful ultimate here, Dino Beamon and Chimeramon, are also very strong, but Imperialdramon just really brings the deck together, and so it's obvious to see this here. One interesting thing is that there was a list playing it at 2, which I thought was very low, very interesting, but Imperialdramon, definitely you're going to be wanting to put this at 4, if not at least 3, but probably 4 is going to be the number here. Another interesting thing to note is that only 15 decks played the starter deck Imperialdramon Dragon Mode, and that is because there was one list that did not play Dragon Mode at all and only played the 4 fighter mode here, which we can see there's one deck that had 4 fighter mode. They did not play Dragon Mode, so a card that seems like it should be in all 16 lists was actually only in 15, and so we see here somebody had great success with only 1 fall down, or with 4 fall down modes and no Dragon Mode. So again, very interesting. I feel like the starter deck Dragon Mode is going to be one of the stronger ones in the deck. Now looking at the options, 4 Hammer Spark is going to be the most used ratio here. We do have some at 3 and some at 2, but 4 seems to be the most common. Not all decks played Hammer Spark, which was very interesting to me as well. I feel like it's such a strong card that not having the inclusion of it didn't make super much sense to me. And on that also, only 10 decks played Ice Wall, which means there were 6 decks not playing Ice Wall. Which is even more surprising to me. It's such a powerful card that takes such little commitment to put into your deck, since it's only 1 slot, that it seems surprising to me that a lot of lists didn't play it. More Japanese lists didn't play Ice Wall, but there was one English list that didn't play Ice Wall as well. So very interesting. It is just such a strong single card that not playing it there does seem like a little bit of a mistake. Obviously, there is so much cycle and stuff that you can put it at the bottom of your deck, but with the power, with just the single-handed power of that one card, it seems worth it to me. Then we got 11 at HPD here. I'm not too surprised by that. I actually kind of thought it was going to be a little bit higher, probably closer to like 13, 14. But there was a few other decks that opted to not play the Hidden Potential Discovered, which is fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The JP meta was a little bit different than what we're going into in the NA right here, as far as how they approach the decks, it looked like. But still a pretty good representation here. Definitely want to be considering HPD in your Imperial lists. And then to finish off with the Tamers, Davis in only 15 of the list, because one of the lists, instead of playing Davis, did play Mimi here. So very interesting that they chose to go with Mimi over the Davis. It does have a little cute applications there, but I still think Davis's search is going to be better. And we did have Davis and Ken in all 16 decks. None of them were playing it at 4, and the most common ratio was at 8 or at 3, with 8 decks playing it at 3, and then right behind it, 7 of the decks were playing Davis Ken at 2. So 2 to 3 is looking to be the numbers that you want here. Davis was at 11 decks playing it at 3 and 4 playing it at 2, so 3 Davis is definitely looking to be the most common number here. But that is going to be it for this. If you enjoyed, be sure to let me know in the comments down below if this was something that you enjoyed, and also make sure to check the description to follow me on Twitch, so that way you can catch more things like this live. Going into BT8, I want to go ahead and just start breaking down the metagame, preparing for regionals and whatnot, so I'm going to be doing this on my own, essentially breaking down some decks, and so I figured I would just go ahead and bring it all to you here. But with that being said, I will catch you all later. I hope to see you for the next Twitch stream, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Peace out.
Oh, well, you can do that too. So so in column D.
Oh boy.
Do equals.
Okay, here we go.
Count ifs. Count ifs.
Count ifs.
Open parentheses.
Okay.
Apostrophe sheet 2 apostrophe.
Okay.
Exclamation point.
What do you do?
Comma.
Is this what you do at work or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
4.
4. Okay.
Then comma.
Okay.
Apostrophe sheet 2 apostrophe.
Oh my god.